Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us, the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross and the Athletics football correspondent Carl Anker. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run through the back pages, set the scene. Close to the real deal, or the Real deal. Madrid finalising 5-year contract for Alexander-Arnold in The Guardian. Maguire left out of England squad on form, says Tuchel, the other big story. Mail goes with player welfare. We are ignored. Kane says players scared of summer burnout, but no one's listening. Real confident they'll get Trent, and top flight refs rake in £240,000 a year, reveals Howard Webb. Mirror, we're being caned. 3 Lions skipper blasts football chiefs for not listening to exhausted players over burnout fears. It's the real deal for TAA, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Maguire kicked into touch, and turn up for the Brooks. That's Wales, of course, with that dramatic equaliser. This time, we know it's for Real. Madrid back for Trent, looks set to succeed. Maguire axed by Tuchel, and Harry's feeling ignored. That's Kane, not Maguire. We'll get to Harry Kane, but let's start with the back page of The Guardian. Their headline, closer to the real deal, the Real deal. Madrid finalising 5-year contract for Trent Alexander-Arnold. John, I suppose what we're all trying to piece together here in the papers and elsewhere is just how close is he to Real Madrid and to leaving Liverpool?
Pretty close, Teddy, I would say. Pretty close. Can I use that? Look, it's a strange story, isn't it? And it's divided the papers. You see, some have, kind of done. Most have got it on their back page, but basically, some have splashed on it. Some have chosen not to, and kind of it's their sort of anchor across the top of the bottom. Because I don't really feel it's moved on too much. Having said that, it's an incredibly exciting story, I think, because he's a Liverpool star. He's fantastic for Liverpool. I love watching him play. He's one of England's most talented players. I love him. I think he's fabulous to watch. And he's going to, Real Madrid, which comes with it glamour, pizzazz and absolutely everything. And his best mate thrown in too, in Jude Bellingham. You can't wish for more, really. He's such a talented player, Teddy. It's almost a study, isn't it, in kind of modern journalism, and that basically one of the sort of kind of more renowned and sort of European journalists, football journalists, has sort of tweeted it and broke a story on it last night, really. It picked up a little bit here. Sort of online this morning, and you guys yourselves at the Sky and sort of kind of Carl's colleague David Ornstein sort of checking it out this morning, sort of kind of saying, well, actually, it wasn't quite sold as seen. He's not quite agreed it yet, but talks are underway, firmly underway, and they're moving in the right direction. I think we can all agree this one's going to happen, isn't it? But it's not absolutely signed, sealed, and delivered yet, because Real Madrid absolutely have to inform Liverpool of their intention. I must say, I'll be sorry to see him go. I think it'd be a sad loss for the Premier League and indeed English football, just because I love talented, different players. And my word, Trent is that. I think he's great.
Almost unrivaled, isn't it, in terms of creative output, Carl? Back page or front page of the Daily Telegraph Sport as well have Real hopes rise of sealing Alexander-Arnold deal. Jason Burt reporting for them, with the caveat John's mentioned and we've mentioned on air as well. As sources insist, no formal agreement has been reached. One is being worked on for the Liverpool vice-captain. What do Liverpool lose? What do Real gain? Because we're discussing pre-show, Carl, won't we? This is a man with extreme statistics going forward and defensively as well. He's not your typical right-back, that's for sure.
No, he's one of the more unusual right-backs, unusual creative players in the Premier League, even though he's normally stationed or normally fielded as a right-back. He plays a lot of time inverting into central midfield. I think 20% of his touches over the last 2 or 3 seasons occur pretty much in the D outside the penalty area, and he's threading all manner of fantastic through balls and diagonals. I mean, his relationship with Mohamed Salah ahead of him is phenomenal as well. So Real Madrid aren't necessarily getting a buccaneering, overlapping, attacking right-back. They are getting perhaps one of the more unique right-sided creative football players the Premier League has seen since maybe David Beckham in terms of ball striking and the ability to finesse a football. So if he does depart, and while we're not quite calling the fire brigade, there seems to be some murmurs of smoke, Liverpool are going to be losing not only a homegrown, phenomenal academy graduate, but also just a fantastic player. I mean, John's already spoken about what a joy he is to watch, and some of the passes he pulls off or can pull off. I think there's only maybe 3 other football players in the Premier League who can currently do the things Trent Alexander-Arnold can do with a football, and he's doing that from, forgive me putting air quotes, right back.
Yeah. Only Kevin De Bruyne has created more chances since 2016 than Trent, which is quite a statistic, John. Back page of the Star has the headline, "This time we know it's for Real and Real." What do you make of this, John? He's won everything you can, win at Liverpool, possibly a 20th title incoming to equal Manchester United, but people unhappy that he's walking away perhaps without a transfer fee on the Liverpool side. How do you see that criticism?
Look, I do think it's become a thing, Teddy, and sort of kind of Liverpool fans, I mean, can you really begrudge, I think, Trent for leaving? I mean, he's, I sort of almost flip it on its head, actually, and say a player has been loyal. He's seen out his contract. He's not actually broken it. He's seen it out. And okay, the dangers of that is then you leave for free at the end of it. But I don't think you can question his loyalty to Liverpool. I don't think you can question his commitment to Liverpool. Yes, in an ideal world, they would be selling him for a lot of money. But I actually think that, when it all plans out, when it's not as if he's joining a direct Premier League rival, for example, I think he's doing it to kind of almost further himself and further his career. He's talked about this bold ambition, hasn't he? The first fullback to win the Ballon d'Or, which, is quite something. I believe that when I see it, by the way. But I just think that he'd actually probably go to Madrid and actually be more appreciated in Spain, because they just enjoy a more freedom, a more sort of expansive, skillful style. And I think he will really feel a lot of love there, and he'll go there, and I think he'll really be a world beater. I do think he'll blow them away. This is a player that if he'd been playing in the Carabao Cup final, I guarantee you that he would have created one, probably 2 big chances, and in a game where Liverpool were really, really struggling for creativity. That's the difference that he is. I actually think that I struggle to remember the game now, but he sort of kind of made a couple of mistakes in one game that I saw at Anfield early in the season, and the fans sort of kind of turn and sort of kind of question his commitment. I think that's so brutally harsh. I think that's too much, really. And I think that basically, yes, they're upset and they're heartbroken, and understandably so. But I think when it pans out, hopefully in time they'll look back and actually give him the credit, huge credit, that he deserves for being a wonderful part of their success.
We'll see if he can make history and win that Ballon d'Or. We were marveling before the show, John and I at least, how Roberto Carlos hadn't won it, but Carl wasn't so sure. We won't talk about that here, though, Carl. It's one week for another day. But let's talk about Trent some more with the help of the Express. Real closing on Trent deal. And I just wondered, something you alluded to there, some of the statistics on the Sky Sports website, a piece by Nick Wright, also suggesting that he is Mo Salah's main line of ammunition as well. How much restructuring will Liverpool's attack need if Trent does leave?
I mean, it's not just if Trent leaves. We're talking about a Liverpool off-season, a Liverpool summer window where Virgil van Dijk's contract is up for discussion. Mohamed Salah's contract is up for discussion. You talk to Liverpool fans and they would like some form of recruitment done at left back as well, because Robertson, while he's been a phenomenal club servant as well, he perhaps cannot get up and down the left wing in the same way they used to in the 2019 pomp. So there is a real scenario where Liverpool could need to completely rework both their left wing and their right wing in the summer. Virgil van Dijk, I think, might be a different situation there. And of course, as well, they're probably going to have to rework their striking options, because, as John has mentioned about the Carabao Cup final, Darwin Núñez and Diogo Jota didn't do particularly much in that game. And I think Arne Slot will have some thoughts about how he can turn that team into more of his side as well. So a lot of work to be done with Liverpool this summer. And if you are an Arsenal fan or a Manchester City fan, I'm sure you're wondering, okay, they've won one, or they're likely to win this Premier League title. How do we stop them from going back to back?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big question, isn't it? Interesting to see how Liverpool respond as well to the setbacks in the Champions League and League Cup final, live on Sky Sports against Everton a week on Wednesday. Let's come to your paper, John. Change topics to Harry Kane and player welfare. Great headline in your paper. Mike Walters for you. We're being caned. What have you? What is the nuts and bolts? It is a good headline, but what are the nuts and bolts of the story?
Yeah, look, this is Harry Kane. A few of us spoke to him in the mix zone following that England game, and he was really powerful, sort of, and really had a story to tell. I actually think Harry Kane is almost underestimated, undervalued as a kind of a spokesman. I think he's been a very, very good England captain. I think he communicates really well with the squad. And basically, when something needs to be said and he's got a view on it, Harry Kane is someone that will step forward, strong views on this. Listen, on the one hand, he is saying that I think players appreciate and want to play in big tournaments like the Club World Cup, which, of course, runs just after England's final two matches in June, until potentially right until the middle of July. And he's saying that basically we've got to be careful of player welfare here. We are the ones that are playing, but we are the ones that are not being consulted and listened to. And it's a really powerful message, actually. But be absolutely clear, he said all along that I want to play in this, but he's almost saying, give us the opportunity to play at our best, look after us, give us the rest we need, I think, and basically, respect the players and their worth. The PFA have done really good, strong work on this, and they've had lots to say on it, and they carry a really good argument and case forward, because the players, I feel, are playing too many games. We are seeing so many injuries this season. It's completely unfair on the professional athletes who are being asked and pushed too much to play too often. And I'm sorry, I get wound up when basically people always say, oh, what about these meaningless international games? They are representing their country. These players want to play for their country. Make no mistake about that. It's an honour. It's a huge honour for a lot of these players, unprecedented. So let's get the balance right here and make it absolutely clear that somehow we need to get a universal calendar, a FIFA calendar to fall into line so that basically players will get 4 weeks off, so they will get a proper rest. They can downtime, so they won't get hamstring injuries, so they won't get constant muscle pulls, which has been a feature of this Premier League season. Why? Because we are at the end of a kind of a 3-4 year cycle with no proper rest. It's getting ridiculous, actually. And I have to say, a lot of players will buy into, I think the Club World Cup will be hugely successful, but let's not kid ourselves. Around that, either before or after, we need to facilitate proper breaks for players. It's not enough, and I think Kane sends a really powerful and warranted message.
Serious topic with some fun headlines as well, Carl, including in The Sun. Kane raps Star Trek to USA. Captain slog Harry in burnout blast at Club World Cup. What do you think the answer is, Carl? Do you feel that the players are, as John maybe suggests, they're victims of a battle between club and international football?
I think it's a battle between club and international football. I think it's a battle between clubs and players in general, right? This is an employment crisis. This has been mentioned repeatedly from FIFPro since before 2019. I remember going to Brussels and hearing Vincent Kompany talk about this. He was saying football players you cannot ask football players to consistently play 60 games a season at high intensity without suffering burnout or mass injuries. And then what happened was the COVID-19 pandemic causing what we now have, this sort of super truncated footballing calendar. We crammed the World Cup into a season, and that World Cup in Qatar perhaps was at a better quality because it happened in the middle of the season rather than at the end when everyone's exhausted. I thought Euro 2024, the quality perhaps wasn't there because players are running on 60% at best. Declan Rice looked a little leggy if you look back as a semi-final against the Netherlands as well. The solution, in my opinion, is a maximum minutes cap. We have to truly take it out of players' hands and say, okay, no football player can play more than a certain amount of 90 minutes or a certain amount of minutes per season, if only to preserve themselves. I'm really, really sad about players like Saka, who's suffered just a huge hamstring tear, and now, I'm fearful, is Saka going to be able to sprint with the same explosivity that he used to before? We need to save these players from themselves. Everyone agrees there's too many games of football. No one is in agreement in which games they should be cut because, unfortunately, football's making too much money.
Yeah, soft muscle injuries, like say hamstrings as well, really significant issue. Back page of the Mail, John, we are ignored. Kane players scared of summer burnout, but no one's listening. John, get your thoughts on that maximum minutes. I suppose in other workplaces, it's maximum hours, isn't it? Turnaround of shifts when you can be on site. Do you think that it is as simple as that? Something objective that the players sign up to for a 12-month period?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea that Carl talks about. Other people have put it forward, haven't they? I do think there used to be an understanding that you would get a maximum of 4-week break that seems to have kind of almost disappeared, and that seems to have been eaten up. And I think that's a great shame, because these players are put through so much stress mentally and physically, that by the time they, come to the end of their campaign, if you like, they really need a rest. They need a complete break from it. Make no mistake about it, these guys are so highly tuned athletes. The vast majority will keep themselves ticking over, even when they go away for luxury breaks. That's just the way they are, and they're top professionals. But they still need a rest. And I think you have to kind of have something into the schedule that maximises that 4 weeks. How can a player be asked to, I think, be asked to play in excess of 60 games in a season, which happens, and it's just wrong. And you see the effect on someone like Rodri. I mean, how Manchester City have missed him. Carl referenced Saka. What a player he is. And actually, I'm afraid to say, he's been overtrained, he's been overplayed, and then you get what happens in December. That is not bad luck. That is overtraining and overplaying, and it's completely unfair on the players. In what other industry would you basically be allowed to kind of put forward an employee knowing that there's a great chance of risk or injury? It's ridiculous. Honestly, it has gone too far. I completely agree with Carl and the basic FIFPro, and making the sort of kind of the stand, the PFA sort of representing sort of Premier League players and below in a really, really, strong, powerful way. But it is time that they are listened to. I do think that the Club World Cup could be, quite exciting this summer, and, and sort of FIFA are absolutely adamant that basically they are listening to it. They are working on a sort of kind of, a player welfare program headed up by Arsene Wenger. And having said all that, I just think we have to think about minimums now. We have to put in complete, ground rules about what players can and can't do, because at the moment, not only are they getting injured, in my view, we're damaging the product because they're not at the best, which is a massive aspect of it. And also, if we play too many games, at what point does football become overkill, and we kind of almost kill the golden goose?
Well, John, powerful stuff. We'll keep across the player welfare story, serious issue, as you say, in the coming weeks and months. I'm sure it will return, but we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's papers, including this in the Times. Tuchel, candid as ever, left out Maguire due to form. Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight, and it's welcome back to the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross and the Athletics football correspondent Carl Anker. Let's go to the back of the Times. So then the England head coach Thomas Tuchel left out Maguire due to form, Jonathan Northcroft reports. Now, John, I know you were in this press conference with Tuchel as well. Is it welcome candour, unnecessary candour? What do you make of this situation with Tuchel and Maguire?
Well, I do think he's very honest. Yeah, I've done every press conference that sort of kind of Tuchel has held, and he's been really steeringly honest in each. Look, the question was, and I actually asked it, well, Harry Maguire's been fantastic for England. Obviously, moving forward, can you see that he would be, back in your plans, because he's been so good for England? Absolutely, amazing servant, really. And he made it very, very clear that on this occasion, his primary consideration was based on form, and basically thought that Konza and Mark Gay were ahead of Maguire on merit, and that basically, the injury issue, and Maguire has been nursing a calf knock, for a little bit, was almost sort of secondary. And so he made his judgment on form. He did say that, Maguire's got a chance to come back, but he's searingly honest about players. He was quite critical after last week's win of Marcus Rashford and Phil Foden, wasn't he? So I don't think he takes prisoners, really. But I do think it's an interesting point, because Maguire, I think, has been such a character and such a leader for England, as sort of kind of the focal point of this kind of resurgence under Gareth Southgate. And it was absolutely fabulous. So he always sparks a debate. And Look, I have to say, it sounded to me as if Tuchel was sort of saying other guys are ahead of him now, so he's really got to fight his way back. I do think he's fighting to save his England future here.
An interesting note, Carl, in The Guardian is as well, David Heitner reporting, saying that he said that Maguire had not been helped by United's struggles this season or Ruben Amorim's preference for a back three. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a really interesting tidbit. I mean, England played four at the back in their two most recent games, and I know Tuchel has a reputation for being fond of wing-backs, at least in England, but historically, throughout his career at Dortmund, at PSG, previous clubs in the Bundesliga as well, he prefers to play four at the back. I think the reason he went for three at the back at Chelsea is because you have a player as gifted as Reece James, at least before the hamstring injuries. You let him fly at wing-back. Maguire in the middle of a back three works. We know this in an England shirt. We also know that he has history playing on the left of a back three. However, the league table does not lie. Manchester United haven't been in great form, and Maguire is not getting any younger. So the only position he can really exist in, if you're playing a back three, is in the middle, and if you're playing four at the back, Maguire's aerial ability, I think, is still ahead of Konsa and Guehi in both boxes. But Tuchel, with only 18 months on this contract, perhaps wants to go win now and move on from one of Gareth Southgate's dependables. It's an interesting case. I really, really thought Maguire would have a fantastic 2025, both for Manchester United and for England. He's the sort of centre-back where, in theory, Tuchel should love him. However, he's got to earn that now.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets back from that calf problem, plays for Manchester United in that Europa League effort. Stay with you, Carl, in the Mail as well. Interesting story about Mike Keegan. Howard Webb revealing that top-flight refs rake in £240,000 a year. I was going to ask you where I can send my CV, or is it too late for me to be a ref? But I'll focus on something you said in our pre-show chat about the importance of pay in driving standards.
Yes. I think everyone who watches football to any amount of degree has had some complaints about refereeing, and it's how do you solve refereeing, improving refereeing? And then one of the simple answers, it may not be a popular one, is if you want better referees, you should pay them more. And I know that the £240,000 a year number sounds like enough, but if you can pay more, it's particularly at 2 or 3 levels, the jump between semi-professional to the professional level, and then as you get higher up the table, so from level 4 and 5 towards the elite stage, if you can stop the drop-off, instead of treating refereeing like a vocation in the same way we treat perhaps teaching or nursing, if you can make it an actual lucrative career choice, that will get people to go, oh, look at that fee. Maybe let me get my boots on and try and give it a go, like you just joked about there. Yeah. That's how you improve refereeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's maybe more rest in the game, paying more.
Yeah, and it's a game which comes with its drawbacks as well, and certainly pressure, doesn't it, that job. Want to talk Wales quickly, John? We've got about 20 seconds. Dragons drama in the eye. I know in the Mirror you had turn up for the Brooks, but Brooks hits leveller with second stoppage time goal of the game. In about 15 seconds, just summarise, not the Sunday morning style goal we saw there, but how good Bellamy's start's been.
Oh, it's fantastic. I think it's unbeaten in 8 now, isn't it? And the point is here, Teddy, is that they never know when they're beaten. I mean, you go behind in the 91st minute, sure, you've lost the game, but no, David Brooks comes up in the 96th minute. That is a tribute to Bellamy's, absolutely dressing room spirit and the spirit that he's instilled. Absolutely phenomenal start. Chuff for Wales. What a great result.
He's done really well. Chaps, you've done really well tonight. Thank you for your company on Back Pages tonight. Hope to see you again soon, Carl and John.